Welcome back to the Casual GM podcast. I am your host, Drew, and of course, I am joined, as always, by my co host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Drew. How about yourself?
Yeah, things are good. We are well into the playoffs. The NFL regular season is over. Let the real NFL season begin, right?
Right. Yeah, this was all practice.
This is so like when I was playing Madden back in the day, or like NCAA football, I would simulate the games to get to the off season because that was the only part that I really cared about. So this is my time. This is what I consider to be football season. So I'm really excited.
Right on. Quick shout out to Joey 2 times who jumped in at like 5 to 6 before we even got rolling. So
Joey's anxious.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then might as well start out by welcoming our new subs, Brother Lee, John Balama,
yeah,
and Troy Quakenbush. So nice. Thank you for subscribing. And you know what that means, Drew? We have met our 50 subscriber challenge.
Yeah, stop the clock. It only took us 36 weeks. So that's better than one sub a week. So that's great. But we did make it. Well, I did at least. I made a promise that he's Aqua. What's going on? We did make a promise, I suppose, that when we hit 50 subscribers, I would get a new Detroit Lions hat and wear it on the podcast. And so today we are going to let the people in the chat look at the ones I picked out, and then they can vote on which one they want me to get. And then we will see how they voted, I suppose. So here they are. Mike was literally Twitter-pated about I had a feeling that Funky might go for that one. Mike got all Twitter-pated because our technology was not aligning that would allow him to put this into a poll, but he works some magic, and this is what we have. So I kind of like dark hats, and usually the simpler the better for me. It looks like Grit's going to have a strong following. That's fine.
I've got a Google form or a poll essentially through Google Forms. So I'll throw the link in here, and then what we'll do is we'll leave that poll open for a week, and then
a
week. Well, because we're going to have
vote outside of the chat.
Well, so you have to come into the chat to get the link. So if you're watching it afterwards, recorded, you can get the link from the chat in there, and then that way they can do it too.
Okay, so, that's fine.
And then next week I'll surprise Drew with what it is. I won't even tell him before the show.
You absolutely will.
I might tell him before the show.
You absolutely will tell me. So. Non-negotiable. So, all right, cool. So the poll will be up for a whole week. Oh, we got
a whole week. Too. Tell your friends.
Excellent. Yeah, tell your friends. Vote on a YouTube forum for some hat that some guy you've never met before will wear. Yeah, probably thousands of people.
I'll be really curious to see the quantity of responses we get. So.
The flat brim hats curl up real nice, actually. So I don't think that the other two hats 1 and 3, I don't think they come curved. If they do, fine. That's fine with me. I don't have to work on the curve myself, but everything's going to end up curved at some point. So those are the choices. We're men of our word.
Yeah. So I threw the link in the chat. So go ahead and start your voting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun. We'll get Drew a new hat.
I wonder how many votes we'll get.
Well, I think we'll get at least. I see Zakwa, Funky, and Joey was earlier. So
I'll bet
3, right?
I will bet that we get less than 10 votes.
And
if there's a tie for the winner, I'm picking. So
that's fair. That's fair.
It's my head.
So I guess let's start off. One of the questions that we had gotten through our social media was about a
Terrible.
linebacker. It was an article talking about linebackers and the off-ball linebacker and about how it is or is not valued. They said, "Hey, this proves linebackers are becoming more and more valuable." And it was an interesting article.
Brian Free Cushion.
Hey, how's it going, Brian? I understand what they were talking about, but I know Drew's got some thoughts on that. So I guess I'll let you kind of go over that article and what your thoughts are.
So every year, Mike, for the last couple of years at least, we've started a tradition where we watch the NFL draft together, largely because I don't have cable in my house, and you do, so it's a real convenient situation for me. And your house is much more comfortable than mine. So last couple of years, I've been over to your house to watch the draft, round one of the draft, and you have a friend named Brian who joins us as well. And so the last couple of years, we've played a game where we bet $1 to see like on every pick in the first round, and then it's just kind of a fun thing. And this year, your second oldest son, is going to play. And I guess I should say your younger son is going to play, which will be fun to take his money. He's 17. But our buddy here found this article and put it up for us to read. And so to me, this is a perfect explanation of everything that is no longer true about the off-ball linebacker position in the NFL. So, and the reason we're talking about it is twofold. Number one, I don't believe that this to be true anymore about the NFL, or at least it has moved away from this truth so much that I don't think that you can rely on it anymore as far as roster building is concerned. And the second thing is the Lions are in this position, right? So last year they took Malcolm Rodriguez. The year before they took Derek Barnes. They are developing these young linebackers, but Alex Anzalone is an unrestricted free agent. How do you fill that role? Do you want to fill it through free agency? Do you want to fill it through the draft? How important is it? Like the Lions defense has been very poor for a long time. So is off-ball linebacker the key to having a good defense in the NFL? Yes or no? Where do you fall on the spectrum? So I tend to think that this is one of the positions in the NFL that you can get by with average play. It would be great if every position in the NFL for every team could be great. I don't think that's realistic because every team has technically the same amount of resources to spend. And if you spent them all so everybody was a little bit better than good, I don't know that team would be a playoff team. Or maybe they would, but they probably wouldn't go very far in the playoffs.
Right.
So I wanted to look at some of the points that this article made and discuss them because we have had this narrative on the show several times. So I am going to present and share my screen. And then we're going to talk about this article. So I'm going to make this bigger because that's the first thing that always has to happen. Is this all right?
Here, we'll do this. We'll take our and the banner. Come on, Mike, get your head in the game. There we go.
Okay, thank God.
Yep.
Okay, so
they don't get to see your pretty face, but they get to hear your voice.
I think that my voice, I've been told that I have the face for radio, so this is going to be just fine. So this is the article. It's by CBS Sports, which I have a very low opinion of. My opinions tend to differ from theirs quite starkly. I have never heard of this author, Chris Trapasso, before, except for this article. So I'm just taking this kind of at face value. That's Brady Quinn. So 2023 NFL playoffs, all 8 divisional round teams have this one thing in common. And I think that is a pretty stark lie. So let's talk about it. So this is Fred Warner, I believe. He is awesome and probably the best linebacker in the NFL currently. To have that be the bar for the article seems a little bit unfair. Let's talk about this. So there's some points in here that I wanted to discuss. Given how scarce high-quality linebacker play is in today's NFL and the importance of the position, it makes sense for the clubs that have advanced to the second round of the postseason to have it. Linebacker play is critical, even though in the past 5 years, one linebacker has been almost universally removed from every base defense in the NFL. So that's the point, my first point here. I literally called you in a frenzy about this topic several days ago because I cannot understand that if linebacker play is critical, and so once again, we need to make the distinction. We are talking about off-ball linebackers. I am not talking about someone like Hassan Reddick, who is a edge rusher, but might be designated as an outside linebacker. That's not who I'm talking about. And it's not who this article is talking about either. They are talking about true off-ball linebackers like Fred Warner. Because NFL offenses have gone to primarily 3 wide receiver sets, they were gaining favorable matchups by putting slot receivers on linebackers in coverage. This is largely why Amon-Ra St. Brown has been so successful over the first 2 years of his career in Detroit, is that he is lined up against a linebacker in coverage about 1/3 of the routes that he runs in passing situations. So he is eating linebackers alive in the passing game. So teams, to adjust to that, have been going to nickel defenses, where they take a linebacker off the field and they put another defensive back on the field to match up better with a 3 wide receiver offense. That makes sense. So, and that's what he says here, because most teams are now rolling with 2 linebackers instead of the customary 3. It's truly becoming a premium position. That last part's not true.
It can't be.
You can't.
If you're removing a third of those players,
right?
How could it be that important? Right?
If you're getting rid of 1/3 of off-ball linebackers in the NFL, the position cannot become more important. That's a paradox. What I think what he wants to say is the work done by the other 2 linebackers is all that much more important, but that's not what he wrote.
Right.
So if you talked about any other position and you said, we are going to take a cornerback off the field, we're going to take a running back off the field, you would not say then that those positions were becoming premium positions. A premium position is someone that you want to have on the field, that you're making room for, that you're looking schematically for ways to incorporate them. So no, this is not true. It just can't, by the definition of the words, it can't be true. So it's truly becoming, linebackers are the worker bees of the defense, loaded with nonstop responsibilities, and yet in a game so laser focused on passing and receiver cornerback matchups, the duties carried out by linebackers are often overlooked. I don't think that they are. I think that what defenses have said by moving to a different scheme is we can live without some of the responsibilities that are largely taken care of by linebackers. So once again, I just don't believe it. Linebackers, particularly the excellent ones, are legitimate full-time players. Of course they are.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
Jesus. That is true of any player at any position, regardless of how valuable they are. Yeah. So Tony Pollard, a running back for the Dallas Cowboys, it got more snaps, near the end of the season than Ezekiel Elliott did, another running back on the Dallas Cowboys who makes a lot more money than Tony does. So if he's an excellent player, he's going to see the field and rarely, if ever, leave the field. And there are probably not that many teams. There are certain situations where you might take an additional linebacker off the field if you needed to run dime coverage, if there were 4 wide receivers present, or you're starting to see NFL offenses that are our running back is also a wide receiver. Our tight end is also a wide receiver. Or a lineman. Yeah. Or in Penei Sewell's case, a a lineman / wide
No,
receiver.
I mean like the tight end is essentially a lineman and a wide receiver, right?
I knew, but I took what you said and made a joke out of it with Penny Sewell, which was
That's
clearly
true.
great.
Well done.
Yes, thank
I
you.
caught it right away too.
Nailed it. I love it when they land. And he goes on to explain why that is so important. Basically, they have to do everything that they are required to do well. Yet again, a key component of any player playing any position in the NFL that they handle the responsibilities of their position correctly. So he hasn't said anything yet that makes me think this position is more important than, say, a slot cornerback. Each team participating in the divisional round of this week boasts at least one total stud linebacker or a previously cast off linebacker who's drastically elevated his play of late. The often overlooked, the last line of the defense has never been more important in the NFL. Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano, good linebackers. I don't know that I would call them studs. Jermaine Pratt, Logan Wilson of the Bengals, good linebackers, not studs. Nick Bolton, same category. Willie Gay, same category. The Jaguars are an interesting thought process in this. So they signed Foyesade Oluokun to one of the highest contracts that a linebacker seen in the offseason. He led the league in tackles, and he did it the year previously, I believe. They also drafted Devin Lloyd and traded up back into the first round to draft Devin Lloyd. And we talked about him on last week's podcast, I believe, with the Malcolm Rodriguez thing. And when did we do Malcolm Rodriguez? Was it last week?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so.
And they also took.
We did Amon-Ra last week.
Oh, that's right. And then they drafted Chad Muma in the third. So the Jacksonville Jaguars made a huge commitment, both in free agency and in the draft this last year, to the linebacker position. But the majority of defensive snaps, those three players are not going to be on the field at the same time. So they used a third-round pick on Chad Muma to roughly be like a specialist or a special teamer, and in some situations have a three linebacker look on their roster during the regular season. But it's not going to be 51% of their defensive alignments. But here, finally, he gets into really good linebackers, and that is Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw for the San Francisco 49ers. And so Fred Warner had a wonderful play in coverage this last week against Dallas that he stuck with a slot receiver down the field, made the pass much more difficult than it was. And that's his role that he plays. Like, he is a coverage first linebacker. And that is what a lot of teams are looking for when you are looking for a linebacker whose job is primarily to not rush the passer. Is, can you cover? So, and he's probably the best in the NFL at this position at doing that. And he has a pretty impressive contract for it. But the Eagles having TJ Edwards, who I've heard some Lions fans say they wouldn't mind being on Detroit. And the example that he gets from the Giants is Jalen Smith, who was hurt for years in Dallas, was cut, and then was signed by the Giants. So, like, I don't feel at all that if we went through and did the exercise that we have been doing for Lions rookies with these linebackers and compared them to each other, that you would see anything approaching, similar, statistics or how they're used or at the level at which they're playing. I don't think that you would see anything like that. This is a list of good players on good teams. And the thing that most of these teams have in common are quarterbacks on rookie deals. So Jalen Hurts, quarterback on a rookie deal. Joe Burrow, quarterback on a rookie deal. I believe this is the last year of Josh Allen's rookie contract before that kicks in. Who else? Trevor Lawrence, rookie contract. San Francisco, you have Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, and even Jimmy Garoppolo restructured his deal, so he costs way less. So you're not paying a ton for those quarterbacks either. You know, the only one here that's not really on a rookie deal is Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes and Dallas with Dak Prescott. And so they have taken the money saved from those rookie deals and used it to improve other areas on the team, like the linebacker position. But you don't, to improve it, you don't really need to dedicate that many resources. And so he says, but it should come as no surprise. Each of the 8 divisional round playoff teams have monsters at linebacker. It's the all-encompassing do-everything position that appeared to be slipping into the shadows of the NFL, drifted away from the run-heavy days of the past, but has actually become the backbone of the game's best, most successful defenses. That is not true. That is not true. Like, if you look at how NFL defenses spend their money, they spend their money on edge rushers and cornerbacks. And if you want to talk about a premium position, NFL defenses, by moving to 4-2-5 nickel-based defenses, they are saying that we need to get more cornerbacks onto the field. Now, those cornerbacks might look different. They might be elite, small, quick, and fast corners that are there to cover the slot, but they also might be guys like Isaiah Simmons from Arizona and Kyle Hamilton from the Ravens, who are hybrid players who were primarily like safeties or quote unquote small linebackers who have been moved to slot coverage because of their elite athleticism. And it's a way to keep them on the field, but yet play multiple roles. So you can offer a different look while effectively not losing much in coverage, but they're there to cover. So that article is going to, someone is going to read that article and say, look, linebackers are, hey, Don, I'm just bashing on linebackers, join in. So like someone's going to read that article and they're going to say, oh, well, CBS says that the off-ball linebacker position is super important. Here's why. Because all 8 teams in the divisional round have linebackers. And it's just like he didn't offer any concrete reasoning as to why, or at least in my opinion, as to why all 8 of those guys are at the top of their respected positions. So
Joey mentions, he said, yeah, I'd rather spend $10 million on Tremaine Edmonds than DJ Chark, though.
Oh, well, Joey and I can go rock'em sock'em on this one because I would invest in, if I had $10 million to invest, and you told me you can either invest it in a wide receiver or a linebacker, I would invest it in a wide receiver 10 out of 10 times. And the reason is very simple.
I did note that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, you were going to make a point.
The wide receiver helps the quarterback position. That's the most important position on the field.
Yep. And I will say Tremaine Edmonds, he's $12 million cap hit this next year, but he's on a rookie deal. Like he's gonna get paid after that. Yeah. I don't want to pay $20 million for Tremaine Edmonds.
I was driving into work today listening to a podcast, and someone guessed that he was going to command somewhere between 15 and 16 a year.
Yeah, I don't want that for a linebacker.
Neither do I. Now, so A6 says, I'm calling Luke Kuechly to see if he will be a special guest on here. Luke Kuechly is a fucking Hall of Famer. So, like...
that can't be your baseline, right?
Yeah, I mean, like... So, we're not talking... I mean, Fred Warner is probably the best off-ball linebacker in the NFL. Luke Kuechly is a Hall of Famer. He's awesome. Right. I love watching Luke. If Luke Kuechly wants to be a Detroit Lion, that's all good, bro.
Yeah.
If we get Luke Kuechly 2.0, it's great. I'll pay him $10 million a year. But like, I mean, like Jermaine Pratt is not Luke Kuechly. You know, Jalen Smith is not Luke Kuechly. So I mean, I'm happy to add talent at the linebacker position to the Detroit Lions. I would rather do it through the draft, and I don't want to spend a premium draft pick on it. So that to me, that is a 4th round pick or later. Now, if they're really good, you could talk me into a 3rd, but that's the appropriate price for this position. An off-ball linebacker, not a rush linebacker, an off-the-ball linebacker in the NFL today. I loved Luke Kuechly. I've been following Luke, so I've been watching the draft for like 27 years or whatever, right? And so like Luke Kuechly, I watched him play at Boston College. I even watched a Notre Dame game because they were playing Boston College, just so I could watch Luke Kuechly play. The dude he's one of my most fun linebackers I've ever watched play. And I was just so sorry that he got stuck in Carolina for all those years. And he retired super early too, which I thought was a bummer. Michael, what?
Yeah, I for the most part agree with pretty much all of that. I think having an off-ball linebacker it's a position that needs to be on the field, right? So it's not like we're going to be like, we don't need you at all. No, we need to have the off-ball linebacker. And do you want a good off-ball linebacker? Sure, I want all 11 of my defenders to be good. I want them to be great, right? So it's not like we're saying that you A, shouldn't have any, and
right.
B, you put bad ones out there. That's not what I think, right? It's really more about, if I'm going to spend the money on one of those 11 guys, if I've got X number of dollars, say there was a salary cap.
Yeah.
Right? Say there was this cap on the amount of money I could spend. That is not where I would spend the money on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I would spend the money on edge rushers, because you have to disrupt the quarterback. That's the most important position in all sports, with the possible exception of goaltender in the NHL. Right. Those two are the most game defining in their sports, right? You need to disrupt that. So the two ways of doing that are edge rusher, sack him, hurry him, pressure him, knock him down, and cornerback, stop the ball wherever he's throwing it, right? So that's where I would spend my money. Every other position needs to be there, right? Safety needs to be there, linebacker needs to be there, interior defensive line needs to be there. But my first two places I'm spending money are edge and corner. And frankly, I would spend money on safeties over off-ball linebackers for the same purposes, as they're closer to the cornerback than they are the edge rusher. So I would spend my money more in that safety, again, like you said, a hybrid type role.
Yeah.
Where you can kind of be all over the field doing a variety of different things. So
yeah, like I had prospect crutches over the last couple of years on Isaiah Simmons and Kyle Hamilton. And I'm like, ooh, I'd really like these guys on the Lions. This would be great. But not at the spots where the Lions were drafting, not at 3 in the Okudah draft, and not at 2 and pass up on Aiden Hutchinson, my boy, right? So like, but like the Ravens taking Kyle Hamilton at 14, that's probably right around the range he was supposed to go, or what have you. But like, it's rich at 2 to take a safety who's effectively a slot corner now. Like if you had told me he was a slot corner coming out of college, I would have said, well, that's probably a lot more palatable than taking him as a safety.
Yeah.
But we didn't know where he was going to play. And like, to be fair, Kyle Hamilton could be a safety or a slot corner or a linebacker or, probably 3 other things.
He's one of those very just hybrid athlete. I mean, that was kind of his thing, right? He was one of the most athletically gifted players in the draft this last year.
Right. So, all right, Mike, linebacker's done. Where do you want to go next?
Let's do our position group. Let's talk wide receivers.
Okay.
So this can either be fast or slow, right? Let's talk a little bit about that, because
depends on how you like it, right?
Yeah, what does our wide receiver list look like?
I'm going to give you the fast version. What this breaks down to for the Detroit Lions is that the wide receiver position in Detroit looks good for years to come, in my opinion. So you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who graded out as the number 2 overall wide receiver in football per PFF this year. His stat line is not going to be the number 2 overall stat line,
It
but
was close.
but he had what
106
6
receptions.
catches, and he had 90 plus the year before, something like that. And for like 1,000 yards, and he had 6 touchdowns this year, he had 5 last year. So he's solid. But like the dude is an amazing route runner, and he is clearly Jared Goff's security blanket, right? So like he is going. I mean, look at this. It says something like he had 139 targets across 18 games. Hasn't missed a game. Knock on wood. And he's getting something like 8, 9 targets a game, 10, 11 targets, something like that. Yeah, no, I'm not trying to change your mind, A6. I think that's probably really solid. Had 1,300 if he played all games. Who? St. Brown? What games did he miss?
Oh, he's talking about last year.
Oh,
he didn't really get on the field until like week 6.
I gotcha. Yeah, that's right. They were like, well, we don't know about you. We got to see how this filters out or what have you.
Yeah, he had 90 receptions.
Yeah.
And missed the first, I think, 5 games.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So this guy looks like 100 catch, 1,000 yards, 5 or 6 touchdowns a year as a 4th round pick. The dude, like, he earned the whole contract, his rookie contract, in his first year. Like, he's amazing. Excellent value. And then, of course, Jamison Williams. He was our 1st round pick, traded up from 32 to 12 in order to take him. I lost my mind when that happened in your living room.
Legitimately hopped up. Oh my God, this is good.
I was thrilled.
Great.
I never even considered that the Lions might take him, so it was a huge surprise and a pleasant one at that.
Yeah.
He's probably going to be on a 5-year deal. He missed most of this year. Saw some decent snaps during the last 3 or 4 games of the season. I think that we have yet to really see what he's going to bring to the team, but I'm betting it's really excellent. And now we get to DJ Chark. He missed some time. They signed him clearly because he has elite speed. He has good size. And there were times.
What? And we needed help.
Yeah. He was their big offseason acquisition. Paid him $10 million, but there was void years worked into the deal. So it was like a 1-year deal, and we will be paying him the next 2 years, whether or not he is on the team. So the question becomes, what do you do with DJ Chark? And we're going to get back to that in a minute. Khalif Raymond, which I think is the next guy on the depth chart, was a Pro Bowler as a punt returner?
Both.
Yeah, kick and punt returner.
Well, I think, return man. I think
return
I don't
man.
know if they have a punt or kick on the Pro Bowl, but
he's another wide receiver with good speed, small but good speed. Saw a pretty solid. I mean, 2nd most targets on the team. That's pretty interesting. I think no touchdowns, which is interesting this year, but that I think there's some variance in that as far as that I'm concerned. And then Josh Reynolds, who is on the team next year for $4 million. He has quote unquote amazing chemistry with Goff.
Oh, you can see it with the 56 targets.
Yeah, he's great. So I think, and so like St. Brown, Williams, Raymond, and Reynolds are all under contract next season. I don't see any reason for them to move on from any of those players. I think they're locks for the roster next year. So the question becomes, what do you do with DJ Chark? And then is there, the back end of the roster of the wide receiver room, what do you do, if anything, there? So chat, question. Do you want to re-sign DJ Chark? Yes, no, throw it in the chat. Mike, while they're doing that, do you want to re-sign DJ Chark?
I do. I do, because I don't think I'm not a big Cephas fan. I don't want him taking up a roster spot. And honestly, I am not a huge fan of Reynolds. He was okay. Like through the Hard Knocks, you kind of get to know him a little bit and whatnot. So like as a person, great. We only have so many spots, and I would rather have Chark over Reynolds.
I would also like to have Chark over Reynolds. I don't really care, I guess, to be honest. I mean, like, so we have talked a little bit about like what does the future look like for the salary cap of the Detroit Lions, and so because they have so many first year contract players contributing in major ways to this team, they're all relatively going to come due at the same time in like a year or two period, and they're going to become the next core of what the salary cap is spending to make it up. So like, what do you do? Like, you can't keep everybody. So my question is, if you let DJ Chark walk, he may have played himself into a decent sized contract in a market this offseason that doesn't have a lot of wide receivers becoming unrestricted free agents. So if he leaves and some team signs him to an inflated contract, Kenny Galladay, anybody? Like, will that generate a compensatory pick for the Detroit Lions? That's my first thought. We're already paying him for the next 2 seasons, like $3 million one year, $4 million the next year, something like that.
5.9 in 2023. No cap hit in 2024.
Okay, so we're paying him almost $6 million next year, whether he plays for somebody else or not. If you re-sign him, it's $6 million plus whatever they have in that first year. So I like him fine. But I think that if the Lions are actually committed to playing Goff out through his deal, he's the wrong kind of wide receiver.
Yeah.
To have on the team.
That kind of goes to what Joey Two Times comment about Chark doesn't bring that much more to the table than Khalif or Josh Reynolds. And I disagree with that because I think he brings the speed that neither of those guys. I mean, Khalif Raymond is pretty quick, right?
So if you took the best parts of Reynolds and Raymond and made them into a new wide receiver, it would be DJ Chark.
Yeah.
So
that's what he does bring. So what kind of offense are we going to be, right? Are we going to be a blow the top off with Jameson Williams and DJ Chark and just burn it downfield? If so, is Goff the right guy?
No.
But if that's not what we're going to do, well, then maybe we don't need DJ Chark. If we're just going to be the dink and dunk, lower, under 20-yard throws, which is what we've done most of the last 10 games when Goff was more successful, then we probably don't. We do need that guy like Jameson Williams, at least one of them, regardless, but just to keep the defenders honest.
So to me,
I want the other one though. Like I want Chark. I want to blow the lid off of things. It worked really well in Miami when they had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle burning it, right?
Yeah, and like let's be honest, Tua's not taking the top off his defense with his arm. Like
No.
What's making Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle so successful with their speed is like they're putting them on like deep cross routes, on slants, stuff like that, stuff that gets them moving laterally across the field where Tua can hit them. And then once the ball's in their hand, like their speed takes over and they become gazelles basically. Right. So like, so if you want to do that and incorporate speed onto the roster, then I think Jared Goff could probably do it. If you want to, but
Ben
like
Johnson's still here.
And so like that's the thing, right? So like I'm going to make the same argument when I make my case for like the fact that we should use a first round pick on a quarterback in this class. But like if you are going to implement this offense and incorporate speed, you can't throw 9 routes. You can't just go 4 verticals because Jared Goff can't get the ball there. And when Jameson Williams came back, we saw that. Like Goff can hit a dude when he's wide open. And when I say wide open, I mean like there's no one around him. It's like a busted coverage. He can hit him then. But like if the dude is running, like in the Jets game, when he had 3 steps on DJ Reed, that should have been a touchdown. But Goff could not put it out in front of Jameson. So it wasn't. But like, if you're going to run like slants yeah, God, don't even get me started on the Buffalo game. So, so that's my take, is that like, if you want speed and you want Jared Goff to be your quarterback, I still think that you can find what DJ Chark does in the second round of the draft. We have 2 picks in the second round. So like, I think that you're better served to let him walk, try and earn a comp pick, and then replace him with a guy that's going to be on a rookie contract. Basically, because I mean, like, good wide receivers hardly end up on the free agency market, and usually their price gets inflated because they do. So I am currently in favor of not re-signing him, especially if he wants anything greater than what he got this last year, which was about, like, call it 10 million.
Yeah.
So and then the back end of the roster, you've got Quentin Cephas, and then you've got the future contract guys, Maurice Alexander, Tom Kennedy, a couple other guys that were basically practice squad players. And I don't care about the practice squad guys. They're all fine as far as I'm concerned. But like, to me, if Cephas is not healthy this season, you can let him go because he's not playing. You can save $1 million if you let him go, and he's just not contributing. And like, I don't know that that's his fault, but at the same time, I'm not going to pay you if you're not contributing. So Michael, what would you like to do next?
Well, I think the other thing that we talked about doing was a mock. Now that we've talked about some wide receivers, we've gotten through most of the offense. Next week, we haven't done interior offensive line, right?
No, that seems like a good place to go to. I like that suggestion.
And then after that will be our quarterback episode.
Sure. We're not doing tackles because they're all set.
I mean, we could do tackles with the line. It could just be an offensive line episode. But yeah, it's Penei Sewell. Keep him, ride him all the way to the Hall of Fame. Decker, ride him until he breaks.
Okay, so we are going to use the PFF mock draft simulator today for one reason and one reason only. Their team needs, I think, are more closely aligned with the way that I think the top 5 picks in the draft are going to go than the other simulators I've been using. And so I think that we're going to get a more accurate draft. I'm just crossing my fingers that I hope this looks accurate with this site than the one that we had used previously. So let's get started here. So we've got Chicago on the clock. Here we go. We're going to start the draft. Please don't be stupid. Jalen Carter, Bryce Young, Will Anderson, Will Levis, Brian Breesy. Okay. I think that went pretty well. I think you can make a pretty reasonable argument for those picks at those spots. Yeah, I'm on board. Okay, so let's talk about this, Mike.
Yeah.
Detroit's on the clock. We drafting CJ Stroud. So
I'd be fine with
your thing. You do your thing, and then I'm going to do my thing.
I'd be fine with it.
We'll go
one of the
stupid.
things that I have been thinking about a little bit more was the conversation around Goff did fine this year. We can just ride him. He has proven he could take a team to the playoffs, even though we didn't get to playoffs, just because the last 10 games were good and they ignored the first 7. He's the whole year. When I do an end of year evaluation for my staff, I don't look at what did you do between, for the last 3 months. I looked at the last 12 months, right? So Jared Goff is not a quarterback that took us to the playoffs this year, though he did play better at the end when they dramatically reduced the playbook to make it easier for him. I'm perfectly fine with drafting a guy like CJ Stroud there, only because I think back to the Kansas City when they went, you know what, Alex Smith, he's a vet. He did okay. Like, he played well that his last year there. They're like, I'm going to take this Patrick Mahomes guy anyway. Now, granted, he was taken at 13 overall, something like that.
Mahomes
not at 10.
Yeah.
Okay. So he was further back, but nobody had him as he could be the next greatest of all time. And not that I think Stroud is going to be the greatest of all time, but it worked out really well for Kansas City, knowing that their veteran can only take them so far. So you might as well draft maybe a quality guy that can be a project and that can sit behind your veteran for a year before bringing him in. So I'd be perfectly fine with CJ Stroud there. At the same time, there are other teams that would love to draft CJ Stroud, and we might be able to get a king's ransom for it in the trade.
Sure. So, my thoughts are, if this was Will Levis and not CJ Stroud, I would draft Will Levis in the spot.
Yeah, I was disappointed that it was the other way around.
Yeah, me too. Here's why. Will Levis has all the traits you want in a quarterback, or at least a lot of them. And I think that he needs some seasoning. He's got to simmer for a little while. Here's why I don't like CJ Stroud. He's bad under pressure. And I mean, like, really bad under pressure. And
you're talking about Goff or Stroud?
I'm talking about Stroud.
Okay, because it's accurate both ways. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, he is. But like, he's bad under pressure, like really, really bad. And even though the Georgia game showed what he can do with like his pocket mobility and stuff, I don't think that's where he wants to live. And so if you don't do that in the NFL, I think you're really missing out on a lot of dynamic additional matchup problems that your offense can provide. So to me here, I would try and trade out of the spot if this was where the board fell. So let's take a look at that just real quickly.
Yeah.
So the Panthers are willing to trade up, I would imagine, to draft Stroud. So if we offer them 6 and then 9 and 39, so we pick up a second round pick here. That's not a lot, but let's see if they take it. Okay, they took it. They take Anthony Richardson. Okay. And then the Falcons took Stroud. Thank God. Okay.
He might have been another draft target or trade target.
Yeah, he might be. Okay, so here we go. Now I think this is the real question between Lions fans.
Right.
With this first pick, if I'm the GM, I want to go defense because the defense is really bad. They played better over the last 10 games of the season. I think very clearly there are places for improvement up and down the defense. So what do we do here? So we got a little bit back because we got pick 39 to move down 3 spots.
Make it a little bit bigger.
Ooh, nice. All right. Look at all of this functionality that we have here with StreamYard. Brought to you by me betting on the NFL games so we can upgrade to this format. So let's see. Miles Murphy, I've heard he is being compared to Trayvon Walker, last year's number 1 overall pick, because of his quote unquote, like, he's going to test so unbelievably well that like he might just be so athletic that the position really hasn't seen a guy like him athletically come around much. So he's that kind of player. Or do you take, like, I'm trying to scroll on StreamYard. That's not going to happen. Do you take a Devin Witherspoon or a Christian Gonzalez and take the first cornerback off the board? I know which way I want to go. Mike, which way would you want to go?
I would rather go cornerback, only because I think our edge rushers are dramatically improved. I think they're not our problem on defense.
Okay. Me either. So this does raise the problem: is when are you going to go get a defensive tackle, because there's a pretty glaring hole next to Aleem McNeil. So even though I like Devin Witherspoon quite a lot, I like Christian Gonzalez a lot more. So I'm going to take him because he runs like the wind. So speed looks like something. Oh, thank God, Bijan Robinson's off the board. I don't want to have that conversation.
Tonight is not the night for that.
Anybody that's mocking Bijan Robinson to the Lions can just not talk to me. So
at least not in the first round.
Yeah, which I'm pretty sure that he's going to be taken in the first round. So here we are at pick 18. So now what do we do? So this is a problem that I ran into when I was doing my most recent first round mock for all teams, is that if I'm assigning players to all the teams, this is the problem that I run into when I take a cornerback first. When I take a cornerback first, I don't know what the fit is at 18.
Yeah.
So there's a couple directions that I would personally go. I don't want to take a tight end in the first round because I hated TJ Hawkinson so much. However, Michael Mayer,
all of our other big hits as tight ends in the first round, like Eric
Ebron, Brandon Pettigrew, TJ Hawkinson. It's worked out poorly, right?
We're due, Drew. We're due.
Maybe we are due. Okay, so
wasn't that Michael Mayer? Isn't he like the 7'6" monster?
He's a big dude.
6'7".
Yeah, he's got good size. He's a pretty good cornerback, or pretty good tight end. Jordan Addison was the player that I picked for the Lions. When I did my mock draft for them at 18, with this pick. Why? Because I don't think that we're going to be able to keep DJ Chark. I don't know where else you would go. I have the guy that I would want to take here would be Osiris Torrance as a potential Vitae replacement. I think that would be a really nice complement to what Penei Sewell's doing on the right-hand side of the line. And so
let's end with one of our second round picks, though. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed, and somebody else mentioned it. Who was it? Double dip, Joey 2 times. I wouldn't be opposed to a second cornerback.
So let's look at who's available. Lions want to play press man, right? Cam Smith, Joey Porter, they can both do that. So what is this then? Are we going Gonzalez on one outside cornerback, whoever we pick here on the other outside cornerback, and putting Okudah in the slot?
I mean, is he going to be more successful
on the team next year? He's like the 4th highest paid player on the team.
Yeah, is he? I mean, where is he going to be most? I don't care about their. I mean, I care about their salaries because remember this salary cap that we have to deal with. But like once we got him on the team, I don't care who makes what. You need to excel at your position and you need to provide value. So
I care what they make. So
well, I mean, at this point, we don't have a whole lot of choice, right? So, I mean, because we're not going to cut Okudah. So where would we put him?
Right.
Wherever he's best at. If he's best at the slot,
I think that I think that if he was best at the slot, he would have been playing in it.
Well, that's true.
But so to me, I think that Okudah is very clearly an outside corner.
Right.
And you just drafted another outside corner. So to me, if Brian Branch was available at this pick, I would just run up to the podium and take Brian Branch. Because he's a safety who's really going to be a slot corner. Like
what's
another
Drum? Jerome in the chat. I'm saying what's up.
What's up? So the other player I would think here would be Antonio Johnson. He's a safety that's also going to be a big slot corner. I would be fine with that. But if this is the choice that I have to make, I'd rather try and trade out again. I don't want to trade down to 29.
Yep. Peace. Not interested.
So Jackson Smith-Njigba plays out of the slot. So that's where Amon-Ra St. Brown played, and I'm not going to do that. You don't need a tackle. You don't need an edge rusher. I mean, I know Joey said he doesn't want another small receiver, but small receivers is where the NFL is headed. Like it's about route running and separation as opposed to like catch point and like out muscling somebody. So
You need both, right?
yeah, but so like Mark here is
There's a
saying like
reason why Calvin Johnson was so dominant because he was bigger
sure, but
and
Calvin Johnson was a generational player. Like
sure.
there has there even really been another player like Calvin Johnson since him? I don't think so.
Not with that build.
I mean, like DK Metcalf is about as close to his build as you can get in the NFL, but like he's not Calvin Johnson. I mean, like Calvin
Well,
Johnson,
like Jamar Chase isn't small.
he's 6 foot,
Is he?
six
I
foot
thought he was
190.
taller than that. Really?
I mean, he plays bigger.
Yeah, maybe it just feels bigger.
So Mark, I think Mark said something here. Okuda will only be here for next season. That's okay. You can draft 2 corners, and then do what? Sit your other first round corner,
Put him in the slot for the year.
or sit Okuda with a $10 million contract.
No, you put Okuda in the slot for the year, and then let him walk at the end.
Right. So, like, are we convinced then that they are not going to pick up Jeff Okuda's 5th-year option? Because I'm not convinced that they're going to pass on it.
Are they going? When does that decision have to be made? Before the draft?
Yeah, certainly before the draft.
Well, I mean, we would go under the assumption that they are not. But I mean, we'll obviously be doing more mocks between now and the draft.
Yes.
But like,
many more drafts.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I'm fine with a guard too, right? Cut Vitae, save what, $8 million?
So if you cut him as a pre-June 1 at 6.5, and if you cut him as a post-June 1, it's 9.5.
Do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, like, I like him. I'm probably going to get ripped apart in the chat.
That's right.
That's true. This regime has no allegiance to Okuda. The other way you could look at it is that they've also spent a lot of time to make him good. And like, he was hurt his first 2 years, but like, this was his best year. And he wasn't a world beater or anything, but like, he showed improvement. Like, he showed up to camp in fantastic shape. I mean, he played a lot more than he has, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, it was like 13 or 14 games, I think. But like, I think that he played much better, and I think that's something that they want. So, okay, Mike. So here we are at pick 39.
Yep.
We do not have an interior defensive tackle. We have taken a cornerback. We have taken a guard. What to do? I like Darnell Washington as my prospect crush.
Yeah, I don't want to drop that far back. I wouldn't be opposed to a safety or even maybe a linebacker to replace Anzalone.
Yeah, I do not want them to re-sign Alex Anzalone. I think that he's a guy that you can upgrade over. And so the Lion, as long as Aaron Glenn is still the defensive coordinator, they will blitz. They will play press man and they will blitz. So to me, Drew Sanders is an interesting prospect here. He used to play at Alabama. He transferred to Arkansas this year. He's big, and he's best when he's blitzing. And so I think that like you get like a year or whatever under his belt in the system. You can send him in as a rushing linebacker most of the time. And Malcolm Rodriguez is going to be your general on the field, and there's a need at linebacker. So, I mean, like, I don't know that he's really an off-ball linebacker, more of a rush linebacker, but like, I don't really know what else is going to be best for this team at this spot. Like, I mean, if it was me and I was the GM, I would just take Darnell Washington and be like, this guy's so enormous. I mean, like, I am just completely amazed every time I watch Georgia play.
We need to for their next pick, though.
He's so much bigger than every other player on Georgia. Yeah, you're right. We probably could.
Of course.
So what are you thinking here?
I would go either Drew Sanders or Maisie Smith.
You know, I'm a Michigan fan, and that makes
I know.
that calls to me.
I know. And we
I'm
need a
go-
defensive interior.
I'm good. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna take Drew Sanders.
All right. Sorry, Joey 2 times and be happy.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's all. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Keeping. Oh fuck! There goes Darnell Washington. You lied to me.
I didn't know you weren't going to trade up and get him.
Oh, shut up! You know I'm not going to trade up. Okay, Maisie Smith. Here we go. I can only resist so long, and that was apparently one pick. So, okay, so let's just do a quick recap here. We took Christian Gonzalez at 9. We took Osiris Torrance at 18. We traded back and we got pick 39, which we used on linebacker Drew Sanders. We took Maisie Smith, defensive tackle from Michigan, to play alongside Khalid McNeil at 48. And now we are on the clock. 3 picks effectively in the top 50. What to do now? Any positions that you think have yet to be filled? Here's what I could see. I could see taking a safety. We don't know about Tracy Walker's health. We don't know if we're going to re-sign Deshaun Elliott. Melifonwu didn't look good. Kirby Joseph's the one for sure starter. So I wouldn't mind a safety.
Yeah, that's where I was leaning as well.
Yeah. I would also not mind another corner, like a dedicated slot corner at this spot. And so I think you could probably find like Trevius Hodges Tomlinson really impressed me. He's small, but like I liked him quite a bit in the college football playoff. But we'll take JL Skinner here. He's big safety.
All right.
And then I think 85 or 81 is our last pick. Oops. Who do the Rams take? Matt Burton. That makes a lot of sense.
Tackle. Jesus, they need offensive line.
Was
help.
terrible.
So bad.
Yeah. Just awful. Okay. So we have taken corner, guard, linebacker, safety, and here's our last pick
And
on the top
defensive
100.
tackle as well.
Yep. Defensive tackle. So what are we thinking?
I mean, can you turn down a guy whose name is Tank?
Yeah. So I'm of the opinion, I guess I wonder what the chat thinks, is are we re-signing Jamal Williams?
Yes. I think 100% we have to.
Yeah, me too. So like if we're re-signing Jamal Williams, you have Williams and Swift as your top 2 backs. That's fine. I don't have any problem with that. That seems fine. And then are we really going to use a 3rd round pick on our 3rd running back? Like that seems terrible to me. We did take a guard. We took a Sirens Torrance at 18 so that we could cut Vitae. I guess it would work out the other way around. Like you would have to have cut Vitae. Okay, thank you, Jerome. He's answering the question that I posed in the chat. I appreciate that. You'd have to cut Vitae and then hope to replace him either in free agency or the draft. And this is kind of backwards since we're doing the mock draft before we know what's going on in free agency. So, to me, interior offensive line is also a area of need. I do think that we'll be losing Evan Brown to free agency. I would not be surprised if that happened. I think someone's going to make him a starter somewhere. And I wouldn't mind a guard like Avila or Whippler, however you say that. Voorhees, Tippmann. He went back to school, so he's not on there. Jarrett Patterson's another guy that I like quite a lot, even though he went to Notre Dame. So I don't mind taking this pick to start drafting backups because technically, like, we're 5 picks into the draft, and so Cedric Tillman might be a good. He's a big wide receiver, offers a different skill set than our other wide receivers. How would you guys feel about Cedric Tillman?
I'm fine with another wide receiver. Get rid of Cephas. Right. We won't need a Kennedy, although I really like him. And
I like Tom Kennedy. I wouldn't mind seeing Tom Kennedy on the roster next season, to be honest. So we're gonna get our couple picks here. We're gonna end up with what we did and what PFF thinks of them. I bet that they will grade me quite low, to be honest, but we will see.
We've got some hat responses coming in, so I think my link worked.
All right. So they gave us a B+ for the trade, a B on the Christian Gonzalez pick. They hated the O'Cyrus Torrance pick. They loved Sanders. They loved Smith. They didn't like Skinner. They didn't like Cedric Tillman. And overall, they gave us a B+. So I think that if you drafted 5 quarterbacks, they'd give you A+ for all of them. So, I mean, that's one thing. But like, if we walked away with something like this, I think the team gets appreciably better next season. And like this class, I don't know that you need to hit a home run. I think this class is going to be about how many doubles can you hit.
Yeah.
Like I think
we hit our home runs with Sewell and Hutch. Like those were already home runs.
Yeah. And you can make the case like St. Brown is a home run. Malcolm Rodriguez is probably a home run. Like to me, it's like let's get the raw. I mean, like for years, the Lions' problem was they would draft players and then no one would remain on their roster. They would cut them or they would walk in free agency, and then they had no depth, and then you had to go out into free agency just to field the team. And so it's a real problem. And so like I see like this is the time into the third year where you're not only just drafting players because they're good players, but now there's less snaps on this team for someone to come in and immediately contribute as a rookie. Like you'd really have to be drafting for those positions because they're those positions in order to fulfill that. And like, I think that's a trap. So, I don't know. I think that like they graded O'Cyrus Torrance a D because they don't see guard as a need. Okay, let's talk about this.
Yeah. I mean, because ultimately, like it's need because we want to save the cap space, right? Oh yes, one pride. I didn't even see that. Is that what you're like?
Yeah, that was what I was. Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Let's hang on. Oh, my mic is all messed up here.
I'm perfectly fine. I'm not messed up. I'm messed up. I am.
My microphone.
We've already got 6 hat responses in. We're already 60% of the way to 10.
I might be wrong about the 10 thing. Would I trade for Jalen Ramsey? Well, what's the trade? So that's the first thing. Like it's all relative to price. Like would I like to have Jalen Ramsey on the Detroit Lions? Yeah.
He would immediately become the best cornerback on the team.
That dude is great. Yeah. And what I mean, like, hang on, let me take a look here.
Had a little Facebook conversation with I don't know, somebody else that disagreed with that take, saying that
that dude was nuts.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, hey, he said he didn't play as good as our own DBs. Check the stats, and I'm like,
that's fucking stupid.
Objectively wrong.
Right. Okay, so if the Rams were to trade Jalen Ramsey before June 1st, he would count $19 million against their cap, and they would save $5 million. I don't know exactly how that would work where we were splitting the money. So let's talk about this. If Jalen Ramsey is so good that like you can put him anywhere in the defensive backfield. Okay, so let's see. He says, I think you are giving up a first. Okay, so if you're the Los Angeles Rams, one pride, and Detroit said, we'll trade you 18 for Jalen Ramsey. do you think the Rams would do it? And while he's formulating his answer, Mike, do you think the Rams would do it?
No, they've got a window. They still believe they've got a window. And I think they do, right? They've got Bobby Wagner, they got Jalen Ramsey, they got Aaron Donald, they got Cooper Kupp, they got Matt Stafford. Now, granted, that's like 65% of their salary cap there, but they do have a window, and they do have superstars on both sides of the field. They won't do it for a one. I don't think they're going to try to trade them because they think they've got a window.
So let's say, I mean, Jalen did this in Jacksonville. So let's say, oh, that's an interesting. Well, I don't know if they would go for that, but like, let's say
I'd do that.
Jalen Ramsey,
the Lions, though.
Well, of course you would do it as the Lions. Let's say you're Jalen Ramsey and you go to the Rams and you say, "We're done. Whatever. I'm out. Trade me. I want to be traded. I'm not gonna take the field for you again." He wipes his Instagram account or whatever they do now, and he's like, "Go ahead and get what you can." And like the Lions say, "We'll give you 18 for Jalen Ramsey."
I mean, if I was the Lions, I would do it.
I would do it.
I mean, looking at our mock, would you trade Osiris for Jalen Ramsey?
Yes. Done.
Yeah, absolutely, right? I would do it, and I would take them out to dinner and say thank you for
like you guys still owe us for Goff, so you guys won a Super Bowl off of Matthew Stafford's right arm. So so Mark brings up the next solid point here. You don't need Jalen Ramsey's contract, right? So you probably don't trade for Jalen Ramsey unless you're going to extend him, right?
Right.
So Jalen Ramsey is 28. His current deal runs through 2025, and he has no guaranteed money after this upcoming season in 2023. So what if you did this? The Lions are finally heading into a year with cap space, right? They have yet to make what I would consider to be a significant signing in free agency under this administration. Now, you can argue that that's because they didn't have the resources to do it.
Right.
But if they don't do it this year, I think that would be enough evidence to say they're probably not going to be big players in free agency. They're probably going to re-sign guys, rely on the draft, and then what, right? But when you flood the roster with these rookie contracts, and they have a lot of them, and they're going to have more, you can use that cap space on a lot of different things. One is re-signing those players, and that's my primary concern down the road. But, and to Mark's point, you don't necessarily need to take on a big contract, but you could.
Right.
So,
especially if we're going to free up additional cap space by cutting Vaitai, drafting a guard. It doesn't have to be in the first round. It doesn't have to be him. But if we draft a guard, give Evan Brown a little bit more snaps or whatever, like we can fill that guard position, save $8 million. We're already going to save a bunch from Charles Harris. We're already going to save 10, I think, from Michael Brocker. So what our current cap space is, isn't what we're going to have going into free agency, right? So I would, if the Rams did this, the contract wouldn't be a concern to me, to be honest.
So here's what I think would probably happen. And so I like what Funky just said here. If you offered the Rams this deal, we'll give you 18. We'll give you Jeff Okudah. They would probably pick up his 5th-year option. And then they would have a first-round pick for the first time since 2012.
Well, since they drafted Goff with it.
Well, that was 16.
Yeah.
And they traded up to get it. Right. Okay, yeah. So that's right. 16. So since 2016. But they are not going to absorb all of Jalen Ramsey's contract in this first year back. There will be some kind of split between LA and Detroit. And then if you were to extend him, you could format that extension in a way that limits his overall impact on the roster.
Yeah. So one price says Okudah is a downgrade from Ramsey.
That's correct.
Yes, that is correct. But what they get for that downgrade is a first-round pick that they haven't had in 7 years.
Correct.
And they get cap space.
Right.
and they get somebody who's young on a rookie contract and was stellar in college and has been improving since he's been healthy. So, yes, it's a downgrade, but I see a lot of benefits for the Rams to do this as well.
Yeah. So like, and if you were trying to sell this, say that this was a trade, we're going to use Funky's trade here. You trade Jeff Okudah, you trade number 18 overall, you get Jalen Ramsey, you go into the draft, you're at 6, maybe you trade down to 9, maybe you have to draft at 6. So let's say you took, so the best case scenario that Jalen Carter's there at 6. Let's say he's not. If you took Christian Gonzalez or Devin Witherspoon at 6, and you went into next season with Witherspoon and Jalen Ramsey as your starting cornerbacks, with Kirby Joseph sitting there, playing like, pick off Aaron Rodgers, catch 22 or whatever. Like, I think that's an appreciably better secondary, and, to me, I mean, like, that's so, like, I think the best use of a first round pick in last year's class was when Philadelphia traded like the 18th overall pick or whatever it was, 16th overall pick, to the Tennessee Titans for A.J. Brown. Like, that was the best use of any draft pick in the first round of last year's class.
Yeah.
That's a home run pick.
They drafted A.J. Brown from first round.
They drafted A.J. Brown. Great job. He's fantastic. I see this as something similar, not one for one the same thing, but like, that's a lot of dead cap being added in 2024, though. He's right. That is a lot of dead cap being added in 2024. And so, like, if that is the case, then what I think that you have to try and combat that dead cap is you're going to basically flush out the contracts that are currently on the roster. And I'm going to say this now because even though our draft didn't line up this way, if they make a trade like this and they go into the 2024 draft, there's the truth. There's the truth. If you go into the 2024 class where you might have Caleb Williams, Quinn Ewers, Drake May, maybe even a JJ McCarthy if he shows out this year, and it's a stronger class than you have this one, the Lions are I would guess right now the Lions are probably making the playoffs next season, and you're probably picking in the 20s and not the teens, right? So I don't think you're going to be in a position to grab one of those quarterbacks. But if the Lions get a quarterback on a rookie deal with the foundation that this team has made, and they hit on that guy, they have the largest Super Bowl window of any team in the NFL for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So like that to me is what the goal should be here for this. Well, I don't care about re-signing Chark, Joey. So I mean that's one thing, and it's my show, so I can't be wrong. So
well, I do. So
yeah, there it is. So if say they made the Jalen Ramsey trade, you draft, let's say, Christian Gonzalez at 6, the defense is appreciably better, and you go chips in the middle and you move up to go get a Drake May or Caleb Williams or somebody like that, and you hit on that guy, I think the Detroit Lions could be the Kansas City Chiefs of the NFC for the next half decade.
Or more.
Right.
I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs are on their second half of that decade, right?
Right. And so like to me, that's going to be the defining, which it should be for every GM and front office, is what do you guys do at the quarterback position? Because we were originally talking about dead money. If you get off of Jared Goff's contract next season, you save $25 million against the cap. That handles it. And then you're
talking about quarterbacks in a couple weeks.
We are going to talk about quarterbacks, but like let me give you a little teaser. Getting off that money is huge.
Yeah.
So if you look at the NFL playoffs right now, it was flooded with quarterbacks on rookie contracts. And like that is going to change in the next couple of years because those guys that are on rookie contracts right now are going to be in their second deals. But the next wave of teams that are going to make the playoffs are going to be teams at least that have competent quarterback play on rookie deals, and the Detroit Lions currently do not have that. And so, and to be honest, I mean, the reason why I think a Kirk Cousins or a Jared Goff or maybe even a Dak Prescott are not going to be able to get their teams to the playoffs and go deep in them is because the money that you save on a first contract quarterback improves the rest of the quality of your team if you know what you're doing so significantly that it gets you to at least the opportunity to compete in the playoffs, which due to tiebreakers and poor officiating, the Lions did not have this year.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
I can see the tears on your cheeks. So,
yeah,
and so another what the chat's talking about right now reminds me of another thing. There's still guys on this roster you're going to re-sign to deals.
Yeah.
Jonah Jackson's contract, he's a Pro Bowl quality guard, is up after this next season. Penei Sewell's going to get a top of the market deal. We'll have to see what Aiden Hutchinson does. But if you think Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to sign for $8 million a year, you're insane.
No,
I'm thinking it's more 20 or 25 a year. Yeah,
he'll be more than that. I think he's going to be 25 to 30.
Yeah, I mean, but in 2 years,
the market's going to reset a couple times.
Yeah,
it resets every year, right? It kind of does when the big free agent signs in the offseason. Last year was Devontae Adams, and he signed for 30. And you got a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown who it doesn't matter when you go to re-sign. It doesn't matter you were 4th round draft choice. What matters is I'm a top 3 in the NFL, regardless of where you were drafted. And because of that, show me the money, right? So he's going to be in 3 years, 30 mil.
Wow. Okay.
He'll be $30 million a year.
So if we looked at positions and wide receivers, right now there is one wide receiver in the NFL making an average of $30 million a year, and that's Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
And then you've got A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp, Hopkins, and Adams all making 25 or more. So some of these guys are going to want extensions. Some rookies, like Justin Jefferson's contract, might be an absolute banger, right?
Yep.
So
that's resetting the market. That's going to happen before
Justin Jefferson. If the Vikings don't make Justin Jefferson the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, he will not play for the Minnesota Vikings.
And he shouldn't. He is the best.
He is so good. Yeah.
So between him and Jamar Chase, what's going to happen is Justin Jefferson is going to reset that. Jamar Chase is going to probably won't exceed it, but it's going to essentially say that's not a fluke, right? And then by the time he gets to St. Brown, he's going to be like, I'm a top 3 guy. And that puts me right around here, guys. And I think it's going to be 30. But hopefully the rest of our salary cap keeps going up as well.
Well, I mean, the new TV money kicks in this upcoming season. So they're estimating that the cap's going to be around 225 this upcoming season. So that's
$15 million more than last year.
Right. So 15 million multiplied by 32 teams times 2, you know, is roughly what that money that's coming in. Yeah. So anyways, we are going to talk about quarterbacks here in the next couple of weeks. So I think it was A6 that wanted me to talk a little bit about the tackle situation between Penei and Taylor Decker. And I will roll that into our interior line. We'll just do the whole line.
Yeah.
Offensive line next time.
The scenario of move Sewell to the left tackle and cut Decker.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they just play out the deals they're currently on, you just let Taylor Decker walk and you just move Penei Sewell to the left side. And you draft a new right tackle at that point, and that's him going into his 6th year. No problem with that. So we'll talk about should you do that prematurely? Yeah, probably not, but we'll see. So that's it for us today. We went a little bit long,
but it was fun and engaging.
Oh my God!
If it wasn't for the darn chat, we would have been out on time, Drew.
Yeah, we would have. I mean, this last 24 minutes really is all on them.
Yeah, I'm gonna blame it on One Pride and Mark and Joey and Funky and A6.
Good discussion in
Joey
the group today.
all those guys.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, I like this when the chat's got their own conversation going and they're still throwing questions at us and that kind of thing. So it was really good today. So if you guys come up with any thoughts for the podcast or questions like during the week, email us at casualgmpodcast@gmail.com and we will discuss your questions on air.
Right on.
And for Mike and Brad Gnomes and all of us.
Yeah. And by the way, we've already hit 11 responses.
Oh my God. Yeah. We didn't even make it 2 hours.
We didn't even make it 90 minutes and we've got 11 responses. So awesome job.
You couldn't give me the 2-hour thing? That's cool. So
I was going to make it even more impressive, Drew.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So
well, thank you guys. We will catch you next to. Oh, you know what? What do we got going on this weekend, Drew?
Oh, that's a great point. So we will be interviewing.
I have many great points.
Yeah, we will be interviewing Matthew Turner from Roar of the Lions UK about his feelings on the season the Lions just went through. We'll see if maybe we can figure out some way to tack that on in addition to what we will talk about, because I mean the people rely on us now, Mike. So I mean,
true.
We'll look at our options there. So
yeah. We could either do it recorded and then just post it later, or we could do it live.
Well, Funky, I think Funky relies on us to bring some joy to his day. I mean, and I know that A6 has said that in the past. So like, plus I really like doing this on Tuesdays. So
yes. Oh, we could still do it on Tuesdays and have the special guest on Saturday.
Oh, that's true. We should do that.
Oh.
Okay.
So it'll be Saturday morning-ish, I think, right?
Yeah, he's in Britain and they're 5 hours ahead. So we're going to have to figure out a time that works for everybody. Kirk from the UK. All right, we'll try.
Right on. All right.
Probably a billion people named Kirk, but
but none of them live in the UK except for one Kirk.
That's probably. He should be easy to find then. Yeah.
It'd be a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We will see you next Tuesday, possibly even Saturday.
All right. Peace, guys.
Yeah.